It's Country Girl, aka CG. Welcome back to my kitchen. So yesterday, which is actually today, but y'all saw the video yesterday, I showed you how to do a never fail pie crust for savory dishes. Again, I don't recommend it for sweet dishes. Desserts and dessert pies, I don't. But for anything savory, go for it. So, I'm also going to be using part of the leftover soup. We're going to transform that into what you're going to see here. So, give me just a second. Let me get this camera pointed down so you guys can see what I'm doing, and we'll go over what you're going to need. Okay, so what I have, this is the leftover chicken from the soup. I pulled most of it out of the soup, and then I had one piece of the roasted chicken left over, so I went ahead and chopped it up and put it in here as well. I have one small onion diced, about 3 tablespoons of flour. I've got about half a bag of peas and carrots. This is the chicken broth that came off of the soup. I've got 2 red potatoes diced up. And for seasonings, I'm going to be using garlic and onion, black pepper, an Italian herb blend, and some more of the chicken bouillon. You notice I don't have salt here because this is salty. Okay? So now, let me move you guys over here to the skillet so you guys can see what I'm doing. I've got 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to put my onions in right quick. Now mind you, everything here is just about cooked. The only thing that's not fully cooked are the potatoes and what I did with them. I brought some water to a boil. When it came to a rolling boil, I put the potatoes in it and I just let it sit. I turned the flame off and let them sit for about 10 minutes so they are parboiled. I'm going to give these onions just a minute to get some water released. I want them to release a little bit of their liquids. And this should take about 2 to 3 minutes. So let me get this going and I will bring y'all back in just a couple minutes. Okay. The onions are just starting to get translucent. They're not browning yet, and that's okay. I don't want them to brown. So, this is where I'm going to start building some flavor. So I'm going to take about a teaspoon, maybe just a teaspoon and a half of this bouillon. Again, this is really salty. It's very concentrated. You don't need much. Sorry for my reach over, y'all guys, but I'm kind of working with what I got here. I don't have a lot of counter space, so I'm going to stir that in real quick. I'm going to let it start dissolving. And this is what you call blooming your spices, okay? So I'm going to put in a little bit of the roasted garlic. Again, you guys, I apologize for reaching across you, but kind of is what it is. If I put you guys on the other side of me, I don't have enough light. This is the roasted onion. I don't need a lot because I got fresh onions in there. Italian herbs. Probably, oh, I don't know, half teaspoon maybe. And some black pepper. Now, with the exception of the butter that's going in here, I'm going to try to make this a little bit healthier for you guys. Because rather than using all milk and making a bechamel, we're going to be using the broth with just a little bit of milk to make it a cream, okay? And rather than using whole milk, I use 1%. Again, it's just about cutting a little bit of the fat and carbs, but still getting the flavor, which is why I'm blooming all these spices one step at a time. So, now that these are in here, we're about ready to go. I'm going to sprinkle on some flour. And it's basically 2 to 1. I started with 3 tablespoons of butter. The bouillon that I put in here is going to take up 1 of the tablespoons of flour. So, probably about 2 tablespoons roughly. You can kind of eyeball this. You want to mix it in. You want to cook the flour for a minute. You don't need it necessarily getting brown, okay? But you want to cook it for about a minute to a minute and a half and cook out that raw flour taste. But just keep moving this around. Alright. Now, I have my chicken stock in a fat separator. You want to keep stirring as you're adding this in. I know this is going to look at first like a lot, but I've got a lot of vegetables and meat that have to go in here too. And you want to stop just before you get to the fat. So I'm going to get that in here. I want to mix it around thoroughly. Mix it in. Make sure you don't have any big lumps. Yes, you're going to have the onions, but you don't want big clumps of flour. And then I'm going to add a little bit of milk, probably roughly a cup. Yeah, about a cup. And I just want to mix this in. Let it cook for a little bit. Turn the flame up just a little bit, and at this point, probably a medium, just over medium. You'll feel it start to thicken. As soon as you feel it start to thicken a little bit, that's when you're going to start dumping everything else in. But this needs to be a pretty thick consistency because, well, it's going in a pie. And basically what you're looking for is about this consistency of gravy. Just keep moving this around. You can't leave this. You can't stop it. You can't walk away from it. You got to stay with this because it does have milk and it will curdle if you don't. So you need to keep moving everything around. And as it starts to come back to a boil, it'll start to thicken. So let me get this to the thickening point and I'll bring you back and show you what you're looking for. All right? Okay, guys. It is starting to bubble again. It's just about at the consistency of a thin gravy. Okay? This is when you're going to want to start adding everything in. You're going to want to leave the peas and carrots to last. They are frozen and they're going to cool your sauce down, and you don't want that because it needs to keep thickening for a little bit. Although it is almost there. The thing with pot pies a lot of people do is they don't put enough liquid because they think it looks wet. And then when you bake this and it thickens even more and the crust absorbs some of the liquid and it ends up being a really dry crust or dry pie without any of that flowing juice that everybody loves to sop up. So that's about where you want it, about the consistency of a thin gravy. So I'm going to go ahead and get the chicken in here. And you guys will see as I start adding stuff in here, It's not going to look so soupy, and it is still cooking, so it's still going to thicken a little bit. But I want to get that in, really break it up, make sure it's evenly distributed. Make sure you are scraping down the sides as you do this, guys. You don't want this sticking and getting yucky on the sides on you. So, got that all distributed. We're going to throw the potatoes in here. Now, can y'all see what I mean about how it's getting thicker? It's because not only is it still cooking, I'm adding everything to it. It's gonna make a difference, okay? So don't worry in the beginning if it looks a little thin. You don't want it soup, but it should be a thin gravy. So we're just gonna warm those potatoes and meat through right quick. Because these are still frozen, they're gonna cool this down, which means I need to make sure this is where it needs to be before I put them in there. It's the last thing you're gonna add. My oven is preheated at 350. As you can see, I've gotten out a cookie sheet. I've got my pie with the blind baked shell on the cookie sheet to catch any drippings or overflow when this bakes. Because you don't want it all over your oven, and you got to clean the oven. Alright. Peas and carrots, and this is according to what do you like. And all I got is that right there left, so I'm just going to dump them in here. But if you like more veggies, put more veggies. If you like more meat, put more meat. Just make sure that whatever you do, you stir it around well, get it evenly distributed. You're going to want to do one last taste test to make sure your spices are on point. Take a little bit of pepper. This is your last chance to season your dish. So, and the great thing about pot pies, you know, originally pot pies came around because it was use up what you had. You know, whatever's in the pot, put it in a pie. And it was use up what you had. This is no different. This is what I had. If you've got turkey and turnips, use turkey and turnips. If you've got rutabagas and parsnips and ham, go for it. Pork, beef, it doesn't matter. And you guys see how nicely this thickened up? That's what I'm talking about. That's what you're looking for. Okay? I'm going to turn the flame off. Now, I have way more filling than is going to fit in here, and there's a reason for that, okay? You know what, let me get my ladle, you guys. Give me just a second. I have enough filling for another meal, and that's intentional. Now, I'm not going to have a whole lot of filling left, but I will have some. I got to get this to the point that I can handle this. If your wrists are strong enough to hold this while you dump it, go for it. You don't need to use a ladle like I do, but my wrists are not that strong and I don't want to burn myself. If I had my own pan that has a handle over here, I could do it that way, but I don't. So, should be about there. Perfect. Alright, now, you've got your pie filled. Again, if you do a pie crust all the way to the edge, so you want to fill this whole thing, then that's the perfect amount for you. This is just how I like mine, okay? It's totally up to you. I'm one person. You don't need a giant pie. But to feeding a whole family, I would suggest that you go all the way to the top with your pie crust and your filling. Give me just a second. I've got the top crust rolled out. I'll be right back. We'll get this finished put together and in the oven. Okay. The crust is on. You will see I messed up right here. This is my fault because when I flipped the crust onto here, I didn't have it centered and I was off. And I tried to fix it and I didn't. But again, this isn't about perfect for me. I like that rustic look. So what I'm doing now is just a simple egg wash, which is an egg diluted with just a little bit of water. This is going to help it stay moist, and it's also going to help it brown, where you get that golden brown crust. Make sure you do spread it out though. You don't want a whole bunch in one place and end up with a scrambled egg. Once you do that, you need a couple of vent holes in the center. Again, if you guys like a fuller crust, the batch that you saw me make in the other video, use that, double it. One for this bottom, one for the top. Instead of having it like I did, but that's just the way I prefer this done. So, there you go. We're going to get this in the oven. It is going to bake at 350 for about 35 minutes. And I will bring you back when it's done and we'll taste this baby. So, we'll be back in a bit. Timer just went off. So I am going to shut the stove off. Y'all ready for this? There you go, guys. In just a second, I'll tilt it down and get you a better picture. Now, you will see where the crust broke on me, but that, again, is my fault, but I like rustic, so it's okay. So, give me just a second. Get y'all a better shot of it. There she goes. Now, this is going to be scorching hot. But I need to do a taste test for y'all. And it's getting late. Just about got the kitchen cleaned up. I got that to put away in one pan to wash. But, can y'all hear that? It's a nice, crisp, flaky crust. So I'm going to scoop out just a little bit of this for y'all. Bottom crust. And I want some of that juice. And you guys remember what I was telling you about. If you don't, you won't have enough juice. That's why you start thin. So, in a second, let me get this tilted up and we'll give it a taste test. Okay. As you can see, this is scorching hot, but y'all need a taste test. So, you guys, this is so good. I mean, seriously, this is delicious. So, y'all gotta try this. Seriously, try it. Let me know what you think. As for me, I'm gonna eat my supper. I'll see y'all next time. Thanks, guys.